Welcome to Channel AMEC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrate to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell on the side, so once we have all the updates and news, be the first one getting all the insight. Now today's video is all about global talent independent visa, and seems to be there are other global talent visa all around the world. So in this video we would like to do some comparisons of what Australia is actually offering and against versus United States, Canada and United Kingdom. See which one is actually better, which one actually provide a better pathway perhaps or opportunity for you to actually choose. So let's start with, well, let's have a look at the United States, US. Obviously, they do have, well, they have been having these programs for a long time. So it's just like how the Australian has the distinguished talent, used to be subclass 124 or 858. Now, I think the year before they had merged the two together. However, United States, US hasn't been done much of changes. So these visas are based on, as you can see, employment based. So they so-called EB1 or the other one is EB2. So the visa basically looking for extraordinary ability in either science, art, education, business, or athlete. So isn't that really coincide with what the global talent or distinguished talent visa actually does? So obviously it's very similar. Instead that they do require an outstanding additional 3-year experiences or certain multinational manager or executive role. So perhaps a generic, if we compare this to a global talent visa that we have for Australia, generic engineer or ICT profession experts might not meet this kind of requirement in compared to what US is actually offer on EB1. However, if we're looking into EB2, it does have that ability for these professionals to actually squeeze into the program as well under EB2. So again, required to have an advanced degree, so not just a bachelor, not just a master, perhaps a PhD or master by research, and with certain years of post study work experiences and exceptional ability as well, meaning that degree expertise significantly above ordinary encounter in science, art, or business. So these kind of things actually really correlates to what Australia is actually offering and compared to what US is offering. Obviously there's I've been getting around with a lot of inquiries that why people actually preferred Australia over US on these either the GTI program or the EB1 or EB2 is on tax. Now the tax, obviously, if you want to know about this, obviously I'm not an accountant, but the taxation in US is much stricter compared to what Australia is over. I'm talking about the international taxation regulation, the global tax. But anyway, you might want to discuss that with your accountant. Now the next one we're talking about will be Canada. Now Canada does have a global talent stream. Now what we have just looked into US with the EB1 and EB2, it's a permanent residency, so that's a green card. Okay, however, what Canada is actually offering here seems to be not a permanent residency here. As you can see, it's more towards employment based. Despite that the US's visa category is also named employment based, but it does give you a permanent residency straight away. However, Canada does not have that kind of pathway. It really requires the employer to actually sponsor and all those kind of things. So it's more like an employment sponsor visa rather than what we traditionally know about the global talent visa in a way. So why can I confirm this? Because if we continue to read it down, there's a certain occupation lists, and there is a certain requirement on the employment side to be met. So as you can see, there are requirement on different kind of occupation. This is from the global talent occupation from Canada. Okay, so there is wage, standard wage required to be there. And if we're looking into the other wages, that they're also looking at around 150,000 that Canadian dollars. That's almost the same as the Aussie dollars. So unfortunately, this is not a for what Canada is offering is actually not a permanent residency straight away. So obviously you're required to be there and work for certain years in order to actually transfer into a permanent residency. But there's actually a way to actually get it there much easier. I think Australia do offer that, but rarely, not many employer is actually utilizing that program there. Now let's jump into UK, United Kingdom as well. Now UK does offer global talent visa too. Don't you know that? Now obviously the program is actually very similar. So we can see that these programs are very, very similar across the boards. But what UK is actually offer, they only more relevant that to us is more on the digital technology. So other than that, there's not much. They also offer arts and culture, which Australia do offer that under the distinguished talent as well. However, if we read it down again, it's not a permanent residency. It does give you 5 years of visa, but if you want to stay longer, that means you want to be permanent. So another way to say permanent in UK is not permanent resident. It's actually said indefinite leave to remain. So that's the phrase. Well, it basically means permanent residency. So you need to have the global talent visa and hold it for 3 or 5 years. And how does it differentiate? It differentiates in the way, let's have a look. If you choose how long visa, up to 5 years. And if you're a leader, after 3 years, you can actually transfer into a permanent visa, which also known as settled permanently in UK, also known as indefinite leave to remain. It's actually very hard to understand what it actually meant. But if you're a potential leader, not the actual leader, then that will end up be 5 years. That means just right before expiry of your global talent visa, then you transfer into a permanent visa. So that brings us to what Australia offer. Now obviously, if you've been following my channel long enough, you notice that the Australian does offer a much better program where as long as you can prove that you, first of all, you're in these tech sector, that's resource, agri-food, energy, health industry, defense, advanced manufacturing, space, circular economy, digitech, infrastructure, finance, service, and education. As long as you're in these target sector in those tech, and you have an income threshold over 162,000 Australian dollars annually, and plus you have a nominator, then you get this through, and you get a permanent residency straight away. So let's do a final compare and give you a little glimpse on this. Obviously, we're in a post-pandemic era. The COVID, of course, has struck the whole economy of the entire globe. But what's being offered now? Obviously, USA has been offering EB1 and EB2 long time, just like how the Australian government has been offering distinguished talent long time ago. But pushing it ahead, giving another name under global talent, well, USA is not bothered to do that because they have been doing that, and they have been attracting a lot of these researchers, R&D managers, these high-tech gurus, and so what we can see in Silicon Valley and all around US. So they have been doing that for a long time, and the EB1 and EB2 basically give them a way to become a permanent resident in US. So they have been doing that for a long time. Now, unfortunately, what Canada and UK is offering, they naming global talent, but they are still under employment base and sponsored, so it's not actual permanent residency yet. So unfortunately, I don't know why they do that, but in compared to what Australia has offered since 2019, the global talent independent GTI visa, it gets you into permanent residency straight away. So the only compare that we can actually put together will be the US EB1 and EB2 compared to the Australian GTI. Now, which one is better? Obviously, I already gave you the answer due to the taxation regulation compared between US and Australia. Well, I would say 90% of people actually pick Australia over USA unless you have been offered a very high remuneration package by a US company to actually go there. But anyway, should you have more question and query, more than welcome to leave comment right down below, and I see you next video. Goodbye.